Welcome to the East End Education Forum. Today's topic is CTE, or Career and Technical Education. Our guests today are Brian Zahn, principal of Southampton High School, Bernardo Diaz, Benny,
Benny's fine.
Carpentry teacher at Southampton High School, Dr. Mary Kelly, the superintendent of Bridgehampton Schools, and Adam Fine, the superintendent of East Hampton Schools. And I'm your host, Bob Tyman, who at times will also be, I'm working with Bridgehampton on their CTE program, so at times I'll be asking myself questions and hopefully I'll know the answer. I'm going to start with a brief overview of what CTE is and why it's important. Presently, about 12.5 million high school and college students are currently enrolled in CTE programs. CTE prepares learners for the jobs of today and tomorrow by introducing students to workplace competencies through hands-on instruction. CTE programs give purpose to learning and education by emphasizing real-world skills and practical knowledge within the selected career focus. Now, this is important. CTE does increase student engagement in schools because it involves students in the decision-making and they become owners of their education. It also encourages students to see a high school diploma and readiness for college as a foundation for their futures, not an end unto itself. Some just quick facts about CTE. It does have a record of higher graduation rates. Students are definitely less likely to drop out, and over 75% of CTE students end up enrolling in post-secondary education. Today, we're going to have an overview of some of the CTE programs on the East End, and also some that will soon be available. We'll discuss some of the shared difficulties in providing these types of programs for our students, and then we'll look at the possibilities for the future. We're going to start with Southampton, and Brian and Benny. Take it away.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate the time and being here, so thank you for inviting us. At Southampton, we are really happy in our progress with CTE education and some of the work that we've been doing and the journey that we're on. I would say for us, and for me specifically, it was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when we saw a shift in some of the national priorities of where kids needed to go. And there was such an emphasis on every child having to go to college and come out with a college career that schools started moving away from CTE education and vocational education. Well, fast forward to where we are now, and even just a few years ago, we recognized some of the difficulties and challenges that created, because nationwide we saw that there was such a major need in the workforce of vocational workers, and particularly here on the East End, it created a major void of a workforce here. So we knew that there was a problem that we had to fix, and we had to be part of the solution. So one of the things that we started doing is researching how we could better serve our community by bringing back vocational education and some of the areas that were in need. We spent some time with BOCES, and BOCES, for those that are not aware, is regional schools that provide vocational training and vocational programs for all of our students. So we started investing in sending our students to many of these vocational programs, but that comes with some challenges, and challenges of additional funds that schools have to pay for it, and particularly something that's unique to the East End, proximity, where we have to send our students up island and have them complete their programs and then battle traffic and other conditions to come back in time to receive the rest of their schooling and their credits.
So the commute to a BOCES from, and you're the closest of the districts here,
Correct,
is still over an hour?
It could
minimum?
be, depending on the center. We send students to Riverhead, to Bellport, to Islip, so there are students that are traveling over an hour at times.
And then the return trip brings them back sometimes 5 o'clock?
Depending if they're a morning student or an afternoon student, it really depends on the session. But one thing that we know is that we want our students back at a certain time, and some of the challenges with the traffic that we deal with really presents a hardship for students to be able to complete these programs and be back in time to finish the rest of the credits that they need. So what we did is just studying some of the needs. We saw that there was a major interest in restoring a carpentry program at Southampton High School. And we had a lot of students that were interested in going to BOCES centers for carpentry. So rather than having students and battling the elements of going there, we wanted to provide that vocational training and that program in-house. So we worked with our superintendent of schools, Dr. Nicholas Dino, our Board of Education, and I can say that everyone was committed to the effort, and everyone realized the need for the vocational training on the East End here. And the other piece is that we wanted to do something even bigger and grander, and that's work with our surrounding school districts to create a consortium of vocational opportunities for our students here on the East End. So I'm sure you'll hear some about that a little bit more, but specifically for Southampton, we started that journey of looking what is it that we need to do two types of things: to create a BOCES type of program, which is a several-hour program during the day, where students are required to spend several periods of their day devoted to that program, and then also for students that really weren't as interested in spending half of their educational day in that setting, but students that wanted to learn some of the trades and vocational programs. So we really attacked it from two different ways: having a very comprehensive program and then also having an exploratory program. So over time, our Board of Education, and again with the support of our superintendent, identified a space in our building that we felt that we can really develop a comprehensive carpentry shop. We spent a lot of time trying to find the right person for the program, someone that's going to be able to work with our kids, engage our kids, and again, provide them the experience that they need to be successful going into the workforce. We spent a lot of time with the BOCES program understanding what it takes to have that specific type of program in a public high school. And over the course of about 2 years, we put that program together and are now very fortunate that we have a very flourishing comprehensive CTE program where students can leave our school with industry certifications, and also the ability to go directly into the apprenticeship through our local carpentry union. We also have students now that have the ability to learn introductory and exploratory building trades, and learn different types of building trades, so they can then make that decision if it's right for them to go into more comprehensive
The exploratory courses, what grade level do they come in at?
So any student from grades 9 through 12 can participate in our exploratories. So this is open to all students. And the goal is that we want students in grades 9 and 10 to at least try the exploratory class to really see if they want to invest that time and effort into the comprehensive BOCES in-house program that we have. So Mr. Diaz here was certainly one that we spent a lot of time recruiting and working with him to bring him into our program. We knew that the key to any program is not just having the facilities, not just having a solid curriculum, but also having the right person. And we are so fortunate and lucky to have Mr. Diaz on staff with us.
I think the right person probably comes way before the facilities.
Absolutely.
We can always make something, but you can't, finding the
That is
right
right.
person is the tough part.
That is right. That is right. So Mr. Diaz can talk a little bit about what he does in the program, in both types of programs there. But I can tell you, before I turn it over to Mr. Diaz, we have seen an explosion in the interest of vocational programming in our school. We're sending record numbers of students to BOCES centers, and also the participation in our in-house carpentry program is very robust, to the point where our exploratories are at capacity. Our in-house program is robust and flourishing, and again, that's part due to the investment from our school district, our Board of Education, and of course, having the right person on the bus, driving the bus there.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you, Bob, for having us, and I really appreciate this time that we can take to talk about our program. First of all, I'd like to also thank Dr. Dano and Dr. Zahn for investing in a program like this, because it's a need in our schools, right? Because you have students that flourish in academics, right, and they flourish great there, but then you have a population of students that don't really flourish in academics, and they're meant for the workforce. One thing I always mention before I talk about my school, about my program, one thing I always mention to my students is life is like a body, right? There's different parts, but there's different functions, right? One function can't work without the other part, right? So you have a hand, right? If you have a hand and an arm, your fingers can't really work without your arm. So there's going to be different people for different positions, right? So understanding this concept, they understand that there's going to be different positions for them, right? You're going to have carpenters, you're going to have electricians, you're going to have plumbers, you're going to have masonry, you're going to have laborers, you're going to have foremen, you're going to have project managers, and it creates one body of workers, right? So we understand that we have that in our school, we have that population, right? So it's trying to figure out which student is which and plugging them into the right position.
But just as a heads up, my guidance counselor told me to work with my hands when
Yeah.
I was in my senior year. College really shouldn't be my future.
And
I did-
look at you now.
Yeah, well, I did wind up doing home improvements till I was 35.
Yeah.
So I was that student.
Yeah.
But I actually managed college okay, too.
Yeah, absolutely, which is important, right? So education is just as important as working in the workforce, right? They can both work in hand, right? So in our school, we run 3 programs, right? We got the residential construction program that we run through BOCES, right? That's a 4-period block that I have with students. And in that program, we just concentrate on carpentry. Right, we learn how to read blueprints. We learn we learn about materials and different tools and different how to operate different tools and everything done safely, right? And then we take those practices and we create things, right? We create buildings, structures, right? Little projects we start off, and then we go into the bigger, broader things, right? So that's a block of 4 periods. It's just complete carpentry, right?
Every day?
Every day, every
Okay,
day,
so that's
right?
And that is junior year, senior year?
It's juniors and seniors.
Juniors and
seniors.
2-year program, that is, I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interject, but that's a 2-year program, and if you complete both years, you can leave with industry certificates right into the workforce.
Right into the workforce. And then we run a building trades program where it's a survey of 5 different trades, right? We got plumbing, electrical, carpentry, masonry, and painting. Right, so we teach them all these different trades because not everybody's going to want carpentry, right? So we want to plant the seeds so the students go out and figure out what they like. Somebody might like to solder, somebody might like to hook up wires. So we put those seeds in from 9th to 10th, and then they can make a decision to go into another CTE class, which is either electrical, plumbing, or carpentry, which would be my program, or even masonry, or one of those. So that's what we do in the building trades program. And we also run another program called the pre-apprenticeship program. This is another part of our 3-course program, right? And at the end of the day, this all leads to a career, right? Because that's what we want them to do, right? We could give them all the tools. Where's the end of the road? Where are they going, right? So through our school and through the working with the administration, we signed an articulation agreement with the local 290 Carpentry Union. If they finish my course and they do the 3 programs, they get a direct invite to get different, they can go right into the Carpenters Union. Right through to the
And
direct
as we
path.
know, there's plenty of jobs waiting here in the East End.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
But
absolutely.
I just want to make it understood that because that is a big deal. There are currently people on that list that could be on that list for the Carpenters Union apprenticeship for years. Our students skip that line and go directly into that. We had a student that was a graduate last year that skipped the line and is now in the local 290 apprenticeship program because of completing the program with Mr. Diaz. I mean, that is an amazing opportunity for our kids.
Yes. So in our program, we're trying to teach them carpentry, we're trying to teach them electrical, but we're trying to inspire them to find their path, find their way, find what they want to do in their life, right? Sometimes you might not go into that field, but it just helps you to understand what you want to do because you see something in a different light, in a different form, right? So that's what we're trying to provide for our students in Southampton.
With any of these programs, the students who participate, I would never think all of them are going to pursue this as a life, career.
Right.
But the experience of creating something that's real and doing real-life problem solving, not textbook problem solving, but actually saying, okay, how do I put this together so it doesn't fall down?
Right.
I mean, I know the first time I used the Pythagorean theorem and actually understood it was the first time I had to make a wall square.
Right.
All that comes into play.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about learning carpentry, it's about learning how to work with other people, how to make decisions, how to solve problems.
Absolutely.
And a lot of applied math, which people don't realize.
Absolutely, absolutely, with different angles, different degrees. There's a lot that goes, right? And they don't understand it. Like a lot of students will tell me, what do I need this for? What do I need this subject for? I said, the subject is right, you see it right here, right? This is the angles, you do that in math, right? It goes.
There's more math on a framing square than there
Exactly.
are.
Yes.
And that's an important point because since the inception of the carpentry program, all three of them, but both of them, the exploratory programs and the full, we've actually updated and worked on our math curriculum right now. We've changed our applied mathematics curriculum to really focus on making sure that it's working in conjunction with our carpentry program as well. So we're also looking at other areas where when students are outside of that actual carpentry workshop, that they are getting the support that they need also in the other areas that tie directly into the program.
Great.
So, just one more thing. So the program is really designed to give them a real life experience, right? It's not a wood shop. A lot of people get that confused. So we've really developed and created a class where they get real life experiences where we're framing sheds. We have customers, we're writing estimates, they're learning how to call up for material, right? Things like that, so they understand what the real life is gonna be when they go out to the field and work in the field. So that's the experience that we're really trying to get.
You have to learn to write up a contract.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
I think we have some great pictures that
Yeah.
can actually
Oh, yeah.
illustrate, so
Yeah,
maybe it's
absolutely.
time for our
Yeah.
first
So we
picture
can
here.
Bring up those pictures from Southampton.
Yeah, so here we have a students framing out a shed that we built out in our work zone. Southampton's given us an area that's closed off with pylons where students can work freely outside. So the students are here, they're framing up a hip roof for a 14 by 14 shed. This is my second year students. What I normally do with second year students is give them a plan of blueprints and they just build the whole structure on their own. Right? They get a little help from me and I try not, yeah.
This is, do you allow them to make mistakes? Because I know when they do that, sooner or later, something's not going to fit. They're going to say, okay, where do we make a mistake? Do you allow that to happen?
That is such a great question because it's going to really coincide with that picture. Can you just put that picture back up? Yeah. So my students framed out all these windows here. And I explained to the students, when you look at a pair of blueprints, right? Blueprints are going to give you measurements, right? And there's going to be ROs, which is a rough opening, all right? And what they did is they had the windows on site. They measured the windows, but they didn't put in the space for the RO, for the rough opening. So all the windows had to be taken down. All the framing had to be taken down. They had to reframe them.
Good.
Yeah, and I allow them to make those mistakes, and they learn.
Yes.
You learn from your mistakes.
You learn from making
Always.
mistakes, yes.
Always. You could go to the next picture. Here the kids are continuing to frame on that hip roof there. You can see them up on the roof. I mean, they get up there. This is a real life experience, right? This is what we're trying to give the students. This is the experience that we want them to have. We want them to be out there, we want them to be inspired to understand that they can do this work and they're capable of doing it, right? Where if they're just sitting in a classroom learning about something that they're not really interested in, they're not going to have this experience. So they're framing up that roof there. That's part of that hip roof. You can go to the next picture. Here, a student again is framing. I make sure with all our jobs, everybody's wearing hard hats, make sure that they're protected. My first year students, they're only allowed to. This is the first year student. They're only allowed to hand nail. Okay. They're not allowed to use the pneumatic guns. You've seen that last picture. They were using the nail guns. Those are my second year students. So my first year students, I make sure that they most students that come into my class, they don't know how to hammer. They don't know how to read a tape measure. They don't know how to work with tools. So we make sure that they're proficient in all that before they put their hands to the tools. You can go to the next picture. Here's another one of my students. So in my class, what I try to develop is just not rough construction, rough framing and rough jobs, right? We do mill work, we do finish work. So here a student is working on making a finished cabinet. So I teach him how to do the finish work, right? Because that's where really the money's at. And I make sure I always, everything I correlate with money with my students because they see it in dollar signs, right? So if I say, you can make this much money to do that, they're like, oh, okay. If I say, you can make this much more money here, they're like, oh, all right, I'm really interested in that, all right? So in the finish work, So we say you drive for show, you putt for dough, right? That's the way. I don't know if that's the right saying, but it sounds like that, right? So finish work is that putting part, right? Where you got to be fine, you got to be good. So I try to teach them that finish side because it is great money in it, right? And so I teach them both parts. I teach them the rough part and I teach them the finish part. You can go to the next picture. Again, here's another student. I do have a lot of females that are interested in the program, which is great, right? And again, they're not all going to be carpenters. Some of them want to be engineers. Some of them want to be architects. Some of them, want to be welders. All those things are a possibility, right? Because they just get the little seeds and then they go out and engage us. So here I have one of my female students, and she's just cutting up a piece in some of the finished work that we did in our class. And this is my class here, right? You see the ladders in the back. We use chop saws, we use table saws, we use circular saws, and everything is portable, right? You could go to the next picture, and maybe I can explain what I mean by that. Oh, here's in the shed, we're doing some sheetrock work. All right, they're outside cutting up sheetrock and doing all the measuring, and just showing them all the different aspects, all the different jobs, all the different positions, right? Because it's not just one thing, right? So we give them that experience, and you can see here, they're all smiley, they're all happy, They're doing what they love, right? They're happy and they're engaged. And that's what we want to create for our students.
And pride in product.
Yes.
I guarantee you, when they are done, they step back to look, we did that.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
real and it's tangible.
Absolutely. So important. So important. I think I have one more picture.
We do not have any more coaches.
Oh, okay. So just real quick, when I was talking about the portable tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we try to create like if you're running a carpentry company, right? Last year we rebuilt the dugouts at the school, right? That meant that we had to take the tools from my wood shop all the way to the baseball field, right? And that means that we needed a truck, we needed to get materials over there. Mm-hmm. So everything's portable. We load up the truck in the morning, they walk out to the field, they bring their little coolers, we go out there, we set up, we're cutting, we're building, we're creating. We break everything down, we clean up, we put it back in the box truck, they walk back, I go back, and it's a work day, right? I consider everything a work day with my students.
And that's what really happens on the job.
That happens on the job, so we get real life experience.
Well, again, this program also we found an opportunity here, because what we've done now is over the summertime, rather than hiring contractors to come in, and Mr. Diaz just referenced the dugouts, rather than hiring contractors to come in to rebuild our dugouts, we are actually hiring our students under the supervision of Mr. Diaz to be our construction crew to work on that. So we've had everything from dugouts to just incredible bookshelves that are being built around the school district. So they are the ones that, with their own hands, actually beautifying our school and making the repairs to our school. So amazing opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I love to see the difference between students going to school just to get 100 or 90 and students getting paid. It's a different student.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Absolutely.
They're on time. They're hungry. They're like, what's next? What are we doing? And it's great. It's really a great experience. And I really give a shout out to the administration, because they really invested in. They saw that there was an opportunity there, and they know that there's students out there that are looking for work, looking for a job. And it's not just carpentry, right? There's more. They do. You guys do other programs too, right?
We do. We have this year alone, out of our 600 and about 600 students, we are sending 52 students in addition to BOCES vocational programs for all different vocational trades. So it's a very large number. And again, the beautiful thing is that we are not we're not capped by any sort of financial kind of pressures. If students are invested in the vocational work, we are, as long as they're accepted into the programs, they're going to the programs. And we're at record numbers of students that are attending our programs in-house and going to the vocationals as well.
That's fantastic. All right, I think we'll move on to East Hampton now.
Oh,
Are you ready? You guys, that was great. That was exciting.
Yes.
So,
Well, before you start, when I did my little research on this, Adam, I just happened to be on the Congressional Career and Technical Education Caucus website. I don't know if you're even aware of this. Yes, you are, I guess.
okay.
So. Okay, so you did pull some strings. So in CTE Snapshots, and this is a national website from Washington, the first place they highlight is East Hampton High School's Commercial Kitchen Lab, which will be used to teach and practice cooking, baking, and other aspects of the hospitality industry. The new program also includes hotel and restaurant management. Students will graduate from high school with a food handler certificate, college credits, internship experience, and a career and technical education certificate on their diplomas. and a handshake from Adam 5.
Thanks. You know, it's so funny because Brian's development over and with Nick with Southampton's what kind of got us thinking, because we had delved into the idea for us with our relationship with BOCES, because we had always put over 40 kids into our BOCES vocational programs. It was consistent every year. But for us, obviously, the ride is extremely long. So the minimum for us to get each way to HB Ward in Riverhead it's at least an hour and 15 each way. Kids had to give up a chunk of their day. So they're actually losing out on 2 instructional periods. So it also limited the type of student to go. So you could never have a child who, in their mind, and again, it's also in conjunction with their parents' mind, I must be in college ready, I have to be in all these classes, this is what the state says I need to be in. I can never dabble in something I'm really interested in, what I do in the summer. And obviously, the culinary industry in East Hampton town is huge. And I would say about 5-6 years ago, when I was principal of the high school, my assistant principal went after our study hall issues, and as any high school principal knows, study halls at the high school level, they're not good environments. They're just environments that breed issues. And what he did is he altered our master schedule and basically said, listen, if you're in 9th and 10th grade, you're not having an abbreviated schedule with a study hall. We're gonna push you into electives. And we kind of really pushed our kids into our family and consumer science program, kind of aligned what we have in our community. And they were robust, bursting at the seams to the point where, of course, I can't find any family and consumer science teachers to add to the program. We were paying teachers to teach extra sections of family and consumer science because we had so much interest in it. And then we had some members on our board of education who were very into, expanding, what that culinary program could be in East Hampton. And we created, the board created, with the prior district administration, a capital reserve fund. And right before the pandemic, which was perfect luck, we were able to get that approved by our voters. And for a reasonable amount, I believe we paid between $1 and $2 million that was already allocated in our capital reserve for our commercial kitchen in our building. We had a space right next to our regular cafeteria and our regular kitchen. And they built the lab. It took a little longer due to the pandemic, but the lab is rather extensive. And last year we ran Culinary 1, so the first part of the program. I think we had between 8 and 9 students in it, and we could max out at 15 in each section. This year we're running 2 sections, Culinary 1, Culinary 2, double period each section, and we have, I think, a total of 9 to 10 students in each. So we're right where we want to be, to the point where, like, Brian had mentioned, building kind of a consortium on the East End, where as we move forward, because we're really in real 1, because last year was only a half a year of, we didn't get in the kitchen until around January due to construction delays, which I learned when we get to talk about our automotive program, which will take place and begin in 23-24. We really rushed to push to open that kitchen, and the pandemic kind of threw us for a loop. And
Well, they didn't mention that one of the minors in Southampton is construction delays.
Yeah, yes. It's so funny because they built our no, we didn't. We're not there yet.
We can.
Yes, yes.
I was just going to suggest.
Oh my! But we it really I really have such admiration for our Board of Education, our district office at the time, the high school administration, the teachers really pushed for this type of program. And again, it was equal parts distance of travel and what program would make sense for us in vocational education, and also our interest in culinary on the East End. I mean, this is where our kids are working and doing. The other piece that this allowed us for, and I think, Brian, you guys hit on it too, is when you don't have to miss the periods and it's in the course of your school day. If I'm a student, you're never ruling out, you're not just a vocational student anymore. You could take a rather rigorous academic load and take these culinary courses, which are dual enrollment courses with our college. So even if you want to dabble a little bit, you have the ability to dabble. When you have to dabble for us, and I'm not saying it's the be-all, end-all, when you have to get on the bus and drive, and we have kids in Islip and Bellport too, that's even crazier, drive. You're really eliminating for our kids extracurricular, a lot of co-curriculars. In this case, with this program, you're existing within our building, and you're part of more things, and you're embedded more in the fabric of our school. And then, hence to our next program, which our other state-approved program, which is our automotive program. We just finished our bus depot after many years and many delays for a number of reasons, but one of the biggest ones being the pandemic. So we have our bus garages. We have the 3 bays for our team of our transportation department, and then we built a student bay. So the student bay, which is outfitted with all state-of-the-art, anything you can imagine, we went and we visited all schools that have it, is going to be ready to go next year. We probably could have really pushed for it to come this year, but with that said, finding an automotive teacher, just like finding a culinary teacher. So we're all I would say self-op. These are our teachers. They're East Hampton. They work for East Hampton schools. Our teacher who's in our culinary program now is a transitional A certificate, and in layman's terms, we took somebody from the industry, we moved them into a culinary program. That's what we're doing with our automotive program too. So, and that goes back.
That's same thing.
And it goes back into the same thing is you don't need to be somebody with a college degree and have all the, what you perceive as all the intellect and all the degrees to teach in a school and get all these certifications. The transitional A and these certifications put just an inherent value on experience in the field. And we're finding this year, our teacher who's, brand spanking new, been in the restaurant industry forever, is tremendous. And just the ability to relate in a kitchen and understand everything. And that's what we'll be moving to with our automotive program, next year, hopefully.
So, and one of the shifts, which I think you talked about a little bit too, is I remember in high school, way back when I was in high school, where the BOCES programs were for the kids who can't do schoolwork. Okay. And actually, I'm going to tell you, probably what happened behind closed doors is, first of all, these are the kids I don't want in the building. So we send them to BOCES. And I'm going back, quite a while at this point. But I think that was the thought process 50 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yep.
And now I think people understand that with the increase in technology in all these fields, computers are part of how we do almost all of these jobs. Okay. The technology in a kitchen, the technology on a job site has gone up exponentially. The students have to be ready, are just as ready for college as being ready for these careers. The skill set, the abilities, I think are comparable, but they might have a passion that now they're allowed to follow. And they're going to wind up in a career that supports a fantastic future.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I think I just want to point out, going back into that academic component, and when you talked about the kids who, a vocational career can get a kid through high school, and we understand there's nothing wrong with that. But when we looked at doing the CTE, because it's a lot to explain regarding picking up English credit, math credit. When we made our decision going forward years ago, when I had visited a number of culinary programs, we made a decision to pull out. So we are not giving kids math credit, CTE. They still have to maintain. They still have to take their math class and whatnot because it's in our school. Right now, we feel that's the best model for us. We might, over the next few years, move more to a embedded model where we can award credits and stuff. There's a little more to that, but we will see. Obviously, we're in the infancy of these programs.
Yeah, I could see how it would take time to, as it evolves, to see, okay, what math skills are here that would make, because you don't want to just make it up. You want to actually use, when I think of the math skills in carpentry, there's definitely a couple of math courses in there. But until you do it, until you see what the teacher's capable of, what you have as far as ability in the classroom, the technology, then make the shift. Then that makes perfect sense.
Correct.
And you're talking about a high-quality program. You're not just doing it for the heck of it.
No, and there's, and look, if you strip everything away, we talk about school budgets, we talk about inflation, we talk about this. There's a significant investment from the East Hampton community in these programs. I mean, the bus garage, I believe, with the land was around $6 million. The lab is between $1 and $2 million. When we look at expanding our programs, we have this program will go, and I think you mentioned, into an expansive hospitality program, which will be supported. We have already catered our own junior prom in our building, where we hosted in our building our junior prom. They've catered, a few years ago, our food programs have catered that. They do all our senior awards. What we want that to really go into a real career and financial piece with that, where, they're billing out, they're balancing budgets, they're looking at invoices, they're doing all of that, not only during the school day, but it's expanding the school day to more of a co-curricular model. Hopefully we're there in a year. We'll probably be there in a year at least with the culinary program.
And I think with all the CTE programs, there's a foundational course in finance and
Yes.
running your
Career
own
yep.
business, and
Yep.
that's huge.
Yep. I don't know if they have any pictures. I
Yeah,
think they should
do.
have some.
They do have some pictures for you.
So you can see. So these are just the Culinary 1 class. It's just doing basic. They're really focusing. Culinary 1 focuses on baking. So there's the Serve Safe class, which ultimately is food safety, which all the kids will get certified in, which is not an easy thing to do and pass. So this is the beginning of the year as they focused on just baking. If we go to the next one. So you could see all our industrial strength mixers, everything is industry standard. When we built this, we had restaurant owners and chefs come in on a committee that we formed to kind of design the kitchen with our architect. So where the architect had his vision, we also had more of the practical piece. Not that an architect's not practical, but we brought in practical, applications into the lab. I think we have another picture.
Yeah, I think you have
A few more, yeah. Yeah, so you could see, sinks, dishwashers, everything is to the level of what a industrial kitchen would look like, that these kids are gonna see when they work in the restaurants. They're also dealing with, again, brand new kitchen. Sometimes things stop working, so they're dealing and adjusting while they're cooking on things that, hey, it might happen, because it might happen in a real restaurant. We haven't had any major catastrophes yet, thank you. But anyway.
Things do go wrong.
They do go wrong, yes. Next slide. Okay, so you see, and I can talk about it. So, we have our ovens, our convection ovens. There's our, mixers, our soup pots that are, there's tilting. I learned a lot about this. Tilting labs. There's underneath, there's all grease collection. You don't see it in this picture. And you can see also the baking racks behind, they transfer into the convection ovens. One of the things we are working on now is getting our kids, and it's funny, it was an afterthought, but we had already thought about it years ago, their chef's outfits. They should have their chef coats, their jackets. We, the pandemic kind of put a kink into ordering and getting our stuff. And, it's one of the things, oh my God, wait, these kids should have this. So, next slide. So you could see, and again, Brian pointed it out with his program, definitely a mix of kids. So you're getting girls and boys in the program, which was something, you look at a traditional high school family consumer science program a lot of times, and you just see, the stereotypical, it's only females. We have been away from that for years in our family consumer science class. So it's good to see in this class, it's balancing out with a good percentage of male students in there.
There are enough chefs on TV now to
Yeah,
role
oh, yeah.
models to
Yeah.
say, this could be cool for guys too.
And what's going to be interesting as we go ahead with our automotive and ultimately, hopefully, develop a marine mechanics program in a few years. When you look at the automotive, I'm interested to see that. I'd like
I'd
to
be very
see,
curious.
I'd obviously like to see a nice split there, but we'll see it. I'm being very optimistic in that case.
I think
Yeah.
you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yep.
I do. Mary,
All right, thank you. Thank you,
shift
Bob.
over to Bridgehampton
Yeah, I
here.
appreciate it. It's great to be here with Southampton and East Hampton. And as we're talking together, I really see the possibility of a collective vision for CTE. It's very apparent that the work that we're doing in CTE is real for not only the kids, but also to support the region. And in Bridgehampton, our CTE program is based in agricultural business and management. And so when you think about the rich history of the East End and the history in agriculture, the history in aquaculture as well, and connect it to things like the culinary industry out here and also the other technical needs that exist that Southampton is providing now, it's it's really something that is beneficial for kids as well as the community. And when we look at the when people hear, oh, you have an agriculture program, that seems like 18th century. What do you mean an agriculture program? You're imagining that kids are out with plows and things like that, and it's very technically advanced. There's a lot of science and a lot of components to it that have rigor and relevancy for so many other aspects of a student's education, just as you've all described this afternoon. And when we think about the marketplace for agricultural businesses and products here on the East End, the other thing that often comes to mind when you think about an agrarian or agricultural part of the country is you think that it's economically depressed and that there are issues there, and that's the antithesis of East Hampton, or not the East End rather, the Hamptons, with regard to its access to agriculture. And I think it was Truman Capote who described Sagaponack, where he lived, as Kansas with a sea breeze. And so we have this amazing opportunity from within our own community to have agricultural opportunities that are profitable, that are meaningful, and that can help support and sustain other aspects of the East End economy. And we are in our second iteration of approval at the state level for our CTE program. So we just got approval. I was very blessed to be able to work with Bob. Bob and I were colleagues up island as assistant superintendents, and I enlisted his support and help in our writing and sort of review of our previous program, and then how we could work on the positive and also build some improvements into it that will continue to allow it to be attractive to kids. And many of our kids are connected to farm and agricultural life. They're growing up on farms. They are working in agricultural businesses. Some of them are having great opportunities with the sea farmers, the South Fork sea farmers, and engaging in some learning and understanding about the aquaculture industry. And so we just got approved, and now we're reworking and writing curriculum and getting ready to launch our next iteration of our CTE program. And that will include things like agricultural explorations, environmental science, career and financial management, also hydroponics, aquaculture, as well as agricultural engineering. And so when you think about the depth and breadth that is being offered and how many different elements that are interdisciplinary in nature and approach that are connected to an agricultural program like this, it's really a tremendous opportunity that will connect co-curricularly. And I think the other piece of CTE programs, which is really important, is when we think about what's best practices in terms of research-based instruction, we're talking about things that are focused on project-based learning or problem-based learning. When we think about the types of skill sets that we want to inculcate for our kids, we're talking about collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, being able to communicate, being creative. And that's what CTE offers all kids. And it is very disheartening when we think back to what you described, Bob, earlier about the negative connotation that has sort of historically been associated with CTE, nothing could be further from the truth. And in actuality, these CTE programs can enhance academic opportunities within the classroom for kids. I think the other, piece of that is because it was kind of given short shrift historically, one of the things that happened is the kids didn't get to have a full experience if they weren't, going to a BOCES. And by the way, I'm a big fan of BOCES. BOCES does tremendous work in this area, and I know many students in my previous assignments and even in my present one who have gone on as a result of participating in BOCES and have been very successful. But when you think about the way it was designed, kids spending half a day in a building and then traveling, going to another place. And as we talked about, they're missing out on, opportunities to be able to do these kinds of things in district. And then if we think about it regionally, I'm just thinking about your culinary program, and our ag program may be supplying you with produce and things like that. Or, we had a situation last year where we needed to do something to protect the chickens from, being taken by hawks, and we had to develop a special structure for them. That would be a great project that we could, work with Southampton kids on. Just, coming up with, as I'm sitting here listening, I'm just thinking about all of these opportunities and ideas. And wouldn't it be great for the East End to have its own, regional CTE programs and opportunities that we could collaborate together? Because really, when you think about the East End, it's not little individual towns, although each town has its own unique flavor and history. It's really one region of one beautiful and amazing region of Suffolk County. And putting our kids on buses is, it's really takes away from the possibilities that they might be able to experience if we were able to do it at home.
We have a few pictures
Great.
From Bridgehampton.
So I think that's my car in the parking lot. No. No, that's our, outside of our greenhouse. Those are our vegetable beds, flower beds. We also have a farm stand out in front of the school that unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to, hold in abeyance, but that's coming up, I guess, next. But we're looking forward to getting that up and running again very shortly. Next. This is our greenhouse. And so we're able to do things all year long here, and we do have co-curricular opportunities for our kids and encourage our teachers to come out and use the greenhouse for their own, instructional needs, and the kids love it. Next. And, yep, these are our chickens, and so we also get, eggs from them.
I know these chickens are not for the pot.
No, they're not.
These chickens
We're not
produce
sending
eggs.
them up to the East Hampton.
But if they were turkeys, maybe, I
Oh,
don't know.
they have names, I think that's Pablo and Carlos. I mean, the kids name them and everything. It's really, they're part of the school community. Next. And then this is a picture of our
yeah,
farm
that's-
stand.
That's the coop.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the coop. I can't
Yeah,
see
you
behind
can't see behind
the
it.
camera, yeah. So that's where they live, and then we had a problem, and you can imagine how traumatic it would be.
Right.
We came back to work, and one of the chickens got taken by
By a hawk?
a hawk.
Not by
So-
East Hampton, right?
No, it wasn't East Hampton. But we'll be calling you to help us with our building. We'll be calling Southampton. Next. And there's our farm stand. So we're really looking forward to getting that up and running. And again, you talk about the motivation in terms of being in business and getting paid and doing something that you are feel an engagement to or an affinity for. It's it's a tremendous opportunity. Next.
Want me to take these? These
Yeah,
are these are
sure.
the oyster ones. So that is a handful of spat, basically baby oysters. And that's where the process starts. These are all spawned at the fish hatchery out in Montauk, the shellfish hatchery in Montauk. And that would be basically getting our seed to start the crop of oysters. Next. Those spat are hanging in bags underneath those floating devices. And in about 18 months, next, you'll have a nice platter full of oysters.
That looks good.
And that also is a fairly new industry on the East End, plenty of jobs and plenty of opportunities for your own business. So that's the main overview from Wall, and we don't have as much time as I would have liked to discuss, but let's talk about this idea was come up little by little about having an East End consortium, about sharing these services, because, I mean, are you still sending people for carpentry to BOCES?
You know what, that's a good question. I do think in the past we have, I do not think we have our numbers in that area, but let me answer that a little, kind of, I never sent 9 kids to culinary, ever, over my
Right,
10
that's the
years as
thing.
principal.
Yes, yes.
So, you know, if we were to promote it and like say carpentry, here's a Southampton, here's an option, I do believe, you know, and even with Bridgehampton, and I think hopefully within all of our schools, and hopefully maybe with Sag Harbor, you know, I do think more kids would be interested. And, you know, it was clear as, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. I mean, usually I'm sending 2 to 3 kids a year to culinary, and getting over 2 years, right now, you know, it's around 26 kids have been involved. So it's a lot different when it's local.
Right.
And, you know.
And is there room? That's
There is certainly room. Again, we have a very robust, you know, enrollment right now, but there certainly is room with the spacing that we have.
what's the cap on the class for this?
Well, it depends on, are we talking an exploratory or are we talking
Those
safely? We can have up to 20 students in that shop safely. And for some of our exploratories, we're beyond, you know, we're at that and
Right.
beyond. We still have some room in our 2-year program for that. So certainly, and I think as you know, Dr. Fine said, we were never sending those numbers to BOCES to begin with. But when you deliver something in-house and students can see that they can take that program in-house and also still have the opportunities to have other electives and participate in other programs, it just creates opportunity and opens doors for so many students. So we're seeing that really come to life. So in promoting an East End consortium, again, rather than traveling up island, and to be able to do that on the East End here, and to create the consortium here, to have our students know that right down the road in Bridgehampton or in East Hampton,
a half hour away, not an hour and a half
exactly,
away.
and
Right.
still have the opportunities to come back and participate in whether it's our courses, our athletic programming, our clubs, and everything else that all other students have those opportunities to do. It's just it's a home run for our kids and for our community.
You know, I just want to jump in because Brian brought it up, you know, we're already doing it in athletics, which
Yes,
are
right.
way
Yes,
more,
that's
which are,
true.
to be honest, way more difficult and way more community-centric events.
Athletics is difficult?
Yeah, I would have a lot more time on my hands if we did. But you know what? Because in this regard, you know, nobody in their right mind. We don't own culinary. We're not the Bonacker culinary. You know, this type of sharing and switching and kind of mutual beneficial programming is not going to, you know, kind of reek of, you know, we don't want to combine with you for this sport or that sport. I mean, or this. It's really a no-brainer for us as these programs get more well-established in each of the districts.
And the kids are already connected through so many other activities on the East End. So it really allows that opportunity for a smaller school, like Bridgehampton, for example, to feel bigger and to, you know, allow the kids to connect with their peers in other places that they're already connected to, you know, and either through sports or through dance or through different programs that they're involved in outside of school.
And it also helps us with staffing. Staffing on the East End is not easy.
Yes.
And there's challenges. So if I know that, obviously we have Mr. Diaz here and with the staff there, it really helps in that aspect too, because very difficult for one school district to be able to hire people from industry. It can't be done. So it's an important shared service for us all.
And there's a huge investment in the infrastructure for these classes.
Of course.
So you can't be giving a full menu in any one.
Correct.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Hey, Bob, can I just add one thing? So I travel in from from out west, and I call it the trade parade. Right. I'm out there for 1 hour. Everybody's coming to the Hamptons. The work is here. We should have the workers from the East End doing the East End work. I love it. And that's the way it should be, because there's plenty of work and there's plenty of opportunity, and we can fill in our students in those opportunities, which is wonderful.
And right now, all those people coming through that trade parade, they have to charge you for that 2 hours of sitting in traffic. I mean, let's face it.
Exactly.
That's
Absolutely.
it's tough. It's tough. So in order for this to work, in order for this to evolve into a consortium, I think it'd be fairly simple for the districts to come up with, okay, here's our price. Same price for everybody. And so a student coming from District A to B pays the same as B to A. So it would make it very easy to do. And guidance has to be on board and involved. And in your menu of programs, we've got to include each other's CTE programs. That would have to be part of it, because guidance is a big part of where our students wind up.
Sure.
So getting guidance from day one involved in this, I think would be really important.
Yeah, but I don't think, when we do our agreements, our sports agreements, which are, I think, way more complex than these, for us, when, for our program, when and just speaking off the top of my head, when you're dealing with a tuition-based culinary program, the price is not going to be an exorbitant amount. I'm already paying the teacher. They're already being absorbed into my budget. To be honest with you, if another district's going to provide other opportunities, I'm sure we could come to some type of agreement that's mutually beneficial for all the kids. So maybe from a financial standpoint, we're not making money for each other, but we're providing opportunity for each other's kids, which is, I'm fine. And again, the complexity of athletics and the way we do that and the billing there is over the top. I do think this is definitely something that's much easier to
Much
do
more
for us.
manageable.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to be a problem, and would be a good problem to get to, is you would never want to bump a local person
Right.
with somebody from another district. That's the only, I could see
Yeah.
boards and parents being upset about that, but that would mean we've got a really fantastic distribution going on when
Yeah.
we get to that problem.
Yeah.
That would be very.
And then listen, the big elephant in the room is always transportation and being able to.
Yes.
But I'm sure with, two of us have our buses, and I'm sure we could figure out how to, if we're busing kids, we've picked up Bridgehampton kids, or we've
Right.
driven and Bridgehampton kids have taken, same with Southampton. I'm sure we can. figure that out.
Logistically, we can figure that
Yeah.
one out.
Yeah, that one,
Yeah.
we probably can't do it now, but
Yeah.
that can be definitely figured out.
And then your
The nuts
automotive
bolts.
program can service the buses.
Yes.
And
There
there
you
we
go.
go.
Which yeah.
And culinary to
Shared
provide
services
snacks
next
along the way.
This has incredible possibilities, though, for the East End. And I think what you were saying about attracting so many different students now to these programs because they don't have to give up other parts of their education. That's really important.
I think we need to really move toward, and I see this nationally, there's been a lot of discussion and focus on CTE, and it's evolving from that, 70s and 80s view that it's not something that's, viable. And it can only help to further benefit and advance students' learning and engagement. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have one or the other. We can have it all, and we can help our kids have it all.
We can have it all.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
a really important point, because I think what we're seeing too, and Mr. Diaz is seeing, is that you would have your profile of your AP scholar type student are in Mr. Diaz's class.
Absolutely. Same Same with,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but the same with Bridgehampton.
Right.
We have students who are, who are classified, and we have students who are in the top of their class, and they're all together and they're engaged. And
One classroom.
Yeah.
When I
Building stuff
think
together.
about AP Capstone, which is a great course that they have in East Hampton, where kids actually take control of their own learning. And it's rigorous, and it's an AP class. And it's the same type of learning we're talking about in these CTE courses.
100%.
It's the same type. And I think we could learn something from both of those scenarios for all of our academic classes.
Absolutely.
So I think we're almost out of time. I'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your day to be here. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope you did, and I hope whoever's watching will also enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks so much,
Thank
Bob.
you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate the
And
opportunity.
as always, I'd like to thank the East End Education Foundation for their support of this series. They've been funding unique and educational experiences and scholarships for children of East Hampton for over 17 years. Thank you all. Hit it at 0.